It is December 5th, 2014. I'm at the Kings Bay branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. Barbara Schreiber, born on...
5940.
Thank you. Has been kind enough to join us today. My name is Brian Hasbrouck, and I work in the Outreach Department. And this is for Our Streets, Our Stories. So, Barbara, why don't you tell me a little bit where you grew up?
I was born in Manhattan, in the middle of Harlem.
Oh, wow.
And it was a different time. My father and mother ran a small grocery store. I literally grew up in the store. I was told there was a playpen in the store, and I was there every day. And as I grew up, I learned to, divide things in my head, to price items and make change. It was a time when, even though I was very young, I could use a register and work in the store after school, of course. I would do my homework. I'd make a desk out of the cases. I'd build the boxes up, and it became a toy to me. That's it. Unfortunately, my father passed away very young, and my mother and I had difficulty running the store alone. Being that I was only 11 at the time he died, we couldn't handle it, so we sold the store, and my mother went to work in a sweatshop, which was very interesting because, again, I was a child and I didn't know any better because I enjoyed things. I enjoy learning and I enjoy doing things. She would bring home what they called piecework, and there were there were belts, and you had to invert them with a stick. And the more you inverted, the more belts you brought back, the more money you made. So for me, again, this was a game, even though it was work. And that's how it went, and I was very fortunate. I had some fantastic teachers. At the time, there was a 6th grade school, because now the schools end at 5th grade and go into the middle school in New York. And I was prepped by a couple of very good teachers because I was fairly alert at that time in my life, and I passed the test for Hunter Junior High School. Hunter has a separate school for the gifted. When I say that, I had tongue-in-cheek because my friends and I would read the newspaper and they'd say we were IGC, and we'd look at each other and what's IGC? And somebody said intellectually gifted children, and we laughed. We thought it was a riot, so we didn't feel any intelligent. We were normal young kids. So that was my school, and but unfortunately, in that my mother worked in a sweatshop, and she barely could read, so my push to continue in school was minimal. So I didn't go on to college. I went to work in a company called Mutual of New York, which is an insurance company, and of course I did very well. Within 4 years, I was at a level that the kids were coming in from college. So, but again, then I got married, and then I had 4 children, so of course I left work after the first child. Actually, interestingly, I was offered a promotion while I was pregnant with my first child. Wow. But being the nice person that I am, and I really mean that, I never was out to hurt anyone, I told them I was pregnant. I was fired in a month.
Wow.
And I had just turned down a promotion. So you see how the idiocy of that is, because that was the time it was. It was the time of...
What decade was this?
So it'd be, if I graduated 58, 1960. So, that was it. So I have children. I have 4 beautiful children. And when I was 44, I decided, after having some medical problems, I'll tell you, I had a mastectomy at 44, which is ridiculous, but so be it. But I'm here, and that's all that matters. And I went back to school. I had never been in college, and I went to school, and I started at Kingsborough. I had 2 years there. Fantastic experience. It really, gave me the incentive to go on. I became a paraprofessional at that time also.
Where?
School on Nostrand and Farragut, I think, Farragut Avenue. I was a paraprofessional there for about 5 years, and when I graduated college, because I would go to college after work, so I had 4 children, went to college. My favorite, I know I'm talking too much, but my favorite was, there was one time when I had to take a certain class. You can't always have every class available. It was only available during my lunch. So now the school is 3 avenues from Brooklyn College. After Kingsborough, I went to Brooklyn College. So I was allowed 2 hours para-time, to go to school. So I would hold my lunch, run down Nostrand Avenue eating, go to school, and come back to work. I was real. The people in the street used to look at me. I'm running down the street eating and coming back to work. But I did it. I got my degree, and then of course I had to get my master's for teaching. You have 5 years to get a master's. I did that after work, and I was lucky enough to get appointed to a school called PS 152. That was opposite Midwood. So going to college at night was even easier for me at that point, because Brooklyn College is right there also. And then I got the master's. I was lucky enough to get a job at 152 I was still a para, and then I became a teacher, and then the city decided there were too many children in the school. We had over 2,000 children.
Yeah.
So they took a ruler and they divided the school into 2. Now it was going to be 315 and 152. And I opted to go with the assistant principal, who is now being appointed principal of the new school as a first grade teacher. I felt it was good. I liked her, she liked me, and it would work. So I was the first grade teacher there, and the rest of my career was there with her.
Wow.
I just retired. This is my 2nd year. Frankly, I retired because I wasn't happy with the new principal that came on. And I went from being a star to being questioned all the time. The person before had said if she had a child to put into the class, she'd put them in my class. But the new principal didn't like me. Allah said that the system was set so that because of my salary at this point, which would be 27 years, she could hire 2 people for me, which is very sad because the new teachers weren't going to do what I put in. And I really love working with children, and I miss the children tremendously. I don't believe in subbing because that's just babysitting, because they don't, it's not a good system. And that's it in a nutshell. What could I say?
No, that's very interesting. But so how many years did you teach? How many years did you teach?
Taught for, let's see, if I was a para for 5, 22.
22 years total in the system?
No, 27 total in the system. But I was a para for 5 years.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I didn't want to leave. But of course, I'm not young, having started so late. And I'm 74 now. I would kind of have worked till I was 75. But Most of my family, my children wanted me to leave because it was just not pleasant. You put in your all when you teach, or you fail. You have to put 24-hour job. It's a weekend job. It doesn't stop. It's not just a book. It's everything. You have to give your all. And if I had a principal who was not there for me, I couldn't do it for her. I could do it for the children, but you need to have support.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it.
Over the course of your extensive teaching career, did you notice any differences in the makeup of students? Any differences in maybe the way, not only just ethnic makeup maybe, but also their approach to school? Is first grade too young for that, or?
No, I think the reason I couldn't differentiate that much here is that most of my children were from Haiti, and that's the whole population. There were a smattering of Spanish children from different Spanish-speaking countries, next to a handful of Oriental in the whole school, and the same for, it was changing gradually towards the end, an increase in a Muslim background from mostly Bangladesh, though, and Pakistan, as opposed to any other country. But mostly Haitian. No, there wasn't that much change. The parents were there for the kids, but they didn't know, and they didn't have the English background, the learning that they could help the children with. That was one of the major problems.
Yeah.
Major. It's if you can't get support at home, it becomes an issue.
Yeah, that's just more responsibility.
Big
burden, really.
You can't be. I mean, I'd have children come in to translate for the parents when we had open school.
Really? Did to go back one more time? Mm-hmm. So you grew up in Harlem. Mm-hmm. When did you move to Brooklyn?
I laugh because I used to. It's silly, but when I was 7, my father. The neighborhood started to change in Harlem, and he went from being like, they'd call him Mr. Jack, that he was like the person to go to in the neighborhood, and they started like stealing things in the store, like breaking the window at night, and the police would call all the time, and he got frustrated because he didn't have the kind of insurance that you have now and stuff, and he felt uncomfortable. So we went to the Bronx.
Oh, wow.
For 7 years. So I was 7, we went to the Bronx for 7 years, and
so you're 14.
And then we came to Brooklyn. We never made it to Queens. I've never lived in Queens.
So where did you move when you came to Brooklyn? What neighborhood were you in?
St. John's Place. I think it's Crown Heights type thing. St. John's. 783 Southern Boulevard. How do you like that one?
Wow.
Southern Boulevard, yeah.
So you lived there for a time. How long did you live in Crown Heights? Did you
my
like
mother
it?
and I, then he passed away, and then we moved to Buffalo Avenue. Does that sound familiar? All right, but that's Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And then we, yeah. And then I got married in 62, 61.
So you married your husband, and then you had 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, do your children live in Brooklyn now?
One guy is in Beacon, New York. That's up going towards Albany.
Oh, okay.
It's not far. It's, well, if you're not familiar, Cold Spring, whatever. And the other guy lives in my walk-in apartment. I have a private house. And one girl is married. Only one of them is married. I have 2 grandchildren. She lives in Park Slope, but she has a rented apartment. And the other girl, the baby, who's going to be 38, I conned her into a master's in art therapy at Pratt, and when she started, there were jobs in the city, but of course we hit a flux of no jobs in the city, and when she graduated, it became difficult, so she started looking online, and she found something in Delaware. This is her 3rd year there. She's in a full lockdown psych hospital called, forgot the name, it's irrelevant. And she's doing beautifully, God bless her. It's amazing, totally amazing.
So over the course of bringing up 4 children and going to school at one point, did you notice any differences between the way you grew up in New York and your experience growing up in Brooklyn and the way your children grew up in Brooklyn? Good or bad?
That's difficult because when you think about it, I was at 11. I had a single parent who couldn't who couldn't write and read that much, and as opposed to me going to school. So, I let them participate a lot into the New York scene. They loved to go in the city. That was the thing to do. They dragged me along a lot of times. It was fun. I enjoyed it immensely. I think, yeah, of course, the times were different. Everything was different. Everything about
what
the
decades
city.
are we talking about? The 60s? Your
Growing
children.
up?
No, I'm sorry, your children, when they were growing up, was that the 60s?
The 80s.
80s.
Yeah, because one guy is, no, he's in the late 60s, right. The boys are in the late 60s, and the girls are more like the late 70s, because there was a gap. I unfortunately had a miscarriage between the two. So there was a gap, but otherwise it was 3 years, 3, and then 4, 3.
You had mentioned earlier that when you worked for Mutual New York,
Mm-hmm.
and informed your bosses, who clearly appreciated your work prior to you telling them that you were pregnant. The 60s are known for the civil rights movement, feminism, etc. How do you think did that affect you at all? Did you pay attention?
I would probably have, but of course it happened because I was pregnant, but had I not been and that occurred, I probably would have fought it. But being pregnant, it was difficult at that point in my life to make a big thing out of it. I was angry. Here I go and tell them in a nice way, don't train me and waste your money. And they said, thank you, you're fired. It's like, there was no reason to fire me. They couldn't even give any, but again, I couldn't fight it.
Yeah. So how would you, if you had to reflect on the social changes that have occurred since then, would you say, what are your thoughts on the changes that have occurred since then?
I don't know, maybe I've been closeted, maybe I just don't see that much. I see the same kinds of problems that I had when I was young. I see the same kind of societal problems. I see the same anger towards minorities and towards coming in new immigrants. I think it's pathetic. I think it's really scary that nothing has really changed. how people resent something when they're here from other countries themselves.
Mm.
You know, it's like I'll hear it even today, you know, because I belong to the senior center across the street from the library, and I hear people talking, and you know, it's not me. Having grown up in Harlem, I was one of the crowd. I didn't see color in any way. When I asked to go work as a para, the gentleman who was doing the hiring was very nasty, and he said, "Oh, you want to work in some nice little lily white school?" And I said, "No, I want to work." You know, it didn't even occur to me where he sent me at that point. And ironically, he did send me to a predominantly black school. And it didn't make the slightest difference because we're all people. One of the best things, whenever I talk to the children, and I've heard a lot of things from the children because they hear things from their parents. And, you know, like one little girl, after Obama was elected, she literally said, now all the white people are going to work. Huh? What? You know, it just didn't, but then again, I was dealing with a 6-year-old, so I realized it was taken out of context probably, and lack of understanding. But it's very strange, very strange.
Over the course of your time in Brooklyn, what kind of changes have you seen, if you've seen any, good or bad? Not just, you know, it could be your neighborhood writ large, the entire borough.
I see a change in population, a tremendous change in population. When we first moved in, the streets around Sheepshead Bay were predominantly Italian and Irish, and Jewish, of course. The three different groups. Very friendly, very neighborly, very helpful. I don't see it anymore. I don't see it. I see predominantly Russian and Oriental. They're not friendly. They don't go out of their way to be your friend. I know in the early years I could just say hello to anyone and they would say, oh, we live on the block or around the corner. Never a problem. Now I try, you know, I still want to be friendly, and they'll say hello, but they won't say hello the second time. You know, they're just, they would sweep your street, they would shovel your snow. There was once one of my sons had to go for an exam at the school at Brooklyn College, and my car was stuck. And 6 neighbors came out and pushed the car out.
Oh.
You know, I would never even think that would have happened now. It was just a different time.
Yeah.
Different time. We'd have block parties. Oh my God. And I'm in the middle of the block.
Yeah.
And so they came one year. They came and said, "Can we use your electricity?" Yeah, of course. We left the garage and they plugged in the cotton candy machine.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we didn't even have a block party in the past 2 years.
Okay.
We didn't even have a block party. That's how no one even wanted to do it anymore.
That's a shame. So, I guess one of the last questions I'm going to ask you is there a message that you'd like to leave for future generations that listen to this?
That's interesting. Just enjoy where you live and who you live with, and try and be a good neighbor, and trying to make the most of what you have. Work hard.
Yeah.
Work hard. There's no answer to it. You got to work hard. and appreciate what you have.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that maybe we didn't cover?
Not really.
Okay. But thank you, Barbara. I really appreciate it.